It was a big day in Formula One yesterday. Daniel Ricciardo officially out at VCARB. And Tim, I apologize for the way I sound in advance here.
Adam's muscling through one right now. He sounds a little like Lunch Lady Doris, but we'll get this one done.
Sometimes you got to play hurt. So, so listen, aside from my voice, if you can get past it, I think yesterday is one of the biggest days in a very news-heavy Formula One season. So you go back to Lewis Hamilton going to Ferrari and go from there. It's been story after story after story after story. And Daniel Ricciardo's exit from VCARB, obviously we suspected it last week. It was reported last week. And can you tell us, Tim, why make the decision now?
Yeah, I think, Adam, if we go back to last week,
Lawson, hang on.
Yeah, do your thing. I'll hold down the fort. Adam has left the building, but he's coming back. But anyways, if we go back to, I guess, just before the Singapore Grand Prix, Ricciardo didn't know what was going on. He didn't know if he was going to be at the team. He didn't know if he was going to be at the team. He thought everything was going to kind of be hunky-dory and he'd be able to kind of finish the season out. It wasn't until Sunday that he had found out that it was going to happen. He wasn't going to finish the rest of the season out. He wasn't going to finish the last 6 races, and not a lot of other people actually really knew. No one really knew until it became official yesterday. So we're taping this on a Friday. We became official on a Thursday afternoon. And so that's when everyone really, really knew what was happening and what were the details as well. Obviously, Liam Lawson coming in to take over for the last 6 races. Again, we'd spoken about his contract and how much Red Bull needed to kind of hold on to him. His contract was due to be up with Red Bull Racing last week, and they had to pull the trigger on what they were going to do with him, because they couldn't just let him walk away. However, I don't really know how many teams actually really wanted Liam Lawson, but that being said, they really needed to see what they had with him, Adam. And so this is the point that we're at now. I think for Ricciardo, it's sad to say, but I think that's it for him in Formula One. He won't be going up to the big team, Red Bull Racing, like he had wanted to. And this is pretty much it. So we can get into maybe what he could do in the future a little bit later if you want, Adam. But up to this point, that's pretty much everything. And when we take a look at Liam Lawson, why 6 races, right? Why just bring him in for just 6 races? Well, it's because so RB can take a look at what they have. And he had shown well last year when Ricciardo broke his hand at the Dutch Grand Prix and Lawson came in to fill in for him until, I think it was till the US Grand Prix when Ricciardo was good to come back. I think it was around then, because I remember I sat down, did a 1-to-1 with him in, actually for this podcast for Mexico Grand Prix last year. And people can go back and listen and watch that one. But yeah, he was still just sort of recovering his hand in that moment. And they just need to see what they have with Liam Lawson. So if he does well, Adam, let's say, he doesn't mop the floor with Yuki Tsunoda, but he keeps up with him. He's able to keep on pace and all that. He'll be back at RB for next year. If he exceeds expectations, he comes in and does a, Franco Colapinto and, really shines, then the likelihood of him moving up to Red Bull Racing, that becomes a serious topic. And the conversation would then switch to Sergio Perez not being at that team for next year. And essentially this is what that is. This is Red Bull seeing what Lawson's got. And if they feel that if he's, next level, next generation, etc., then they would swap out Sergio Perez for next year and they'd put Liam Lawson in.
Let me ask you this, Tim. before the summer break, it looked like Perez could be out and Ricciardo could be in at the big team.
Yes.
And then Ricciardo was apparently told you're going to be in VCARB for the rest of the year. What changed?
I think it's just the fact that Helmut Marko really wanted to make sure that they just didn't lose Liam Lawson, and they actually saw it through with him as well. And we had heard many different things from Helmut over the last few months. RB is for the younger drivers, it's for our younger talent that's coming in, and Helmut had really brought Liam Lawson along. Like the way he got discovered, like Helmut went to New Zealand to watch another driver race in karting, and he discovered Liam Lawson there, and that's how that got started, and that's how he ended up jumping into the Red Bull Junior Driver program. And Helmut really thinks that Lawson is like next level, like he's very talented. And I mean, look, like Helmut's done a really good job at the drivers that he's brought into Formula One. Like, we can't sit here and say that he hasn't, because he has. And so, I mean, if he really fought to get Lawson into that seat, and I don't think that Helmut ever really got over how Daniel left in 2019 or whatever it was to go to Renault. Like, I think they had a sort of handshake deal that was basically like, I'm going to stick around. Like, Ricciardo was going to stick around at Red Bull Racing when his contract was up there then. And he had a handshake deal with Helmut Marko and Dietrich Mateschitz, and then obviously broke that by getting a bigger offer and from Renault. And I don't really think Helmut really ever got over that. And I can understand that as well. And so I think there's a lot that went into it. And then looking at Lawson filling in for Ricciardo when he had broken his hand and what he had done, I just think it was just too tantalizing for them just to make sure, like, just to lose him, right? Like, they wanted to make sure that they saw it through with Liam Lawson and actually could see what he has to offer. And you got him, man. Like, I get it. Like, I get that. And F1's tough that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just is.
A couple of things. I want to get back to Liam Lawson, because you can be upset about the way Daniel went out, but also excited for the way that Liam Lawson is going to come in, and this talent that he has. If you watched him race in that AlphaTauri car last year, he had 2 points.
It was great.
Absolute blessing that was, because that car was the worst one on the grid.
Yeah, it was
terrible season last year for AlphaTauri. But I want to switch back to Helmut Marko for a second. I find it funny that Helmut Marko maybe didn't get over the fact that Daniel left for Renault, when Helmut Marko is the reason, reportedly, that Daniel left for Renault. And it goes back to a conversation that, now, Daniel's represented by CAA now. If he were with CAA then, there's no way they would have let him leave Red Bull. However, the conversation apparently went like this. Helmut said to Daniel and his representation at the time, "We want you to be the 2019 world champion. That's what we think. And then in 2020 and 2021, it's going to be Max Verstappen." And that is the reported conversation that made Daniel and his representation go, well, not sure if I'm in for that. And you can understand from a Formula One driver's perspective. Imagine telling Lewis Hamilton, "Lewis, we want you to come from McLaren to Mercedes. You're going to replace Schumacher. Awesome. Great. We want you to win. And then we want Rosberg to take the next 2. Like, it's just not something that a driver will be like, yeah, no, that's cool. Let my teammate do it. And it's not because Verstappen and Ricciardo didn't get along. They got along great. It's because you're a competitor. And one of the things I seriously take issue with, and I think it's a good time to bring it up, if I can hold it together here, is Helmut Marko is undoubtedly one of the greatest talent developers in the history of the sport, if not the greatest. Sebastian Vettel, Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo, probably his 3 best graduates. Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, I was going to say there's more.
Yeah, there's way more, but I'm just saying just at the Red Bull senior team. And, even guys like, Gasly, Daniel Kvyat, there were some great drivers that have come through that program. Albon. And I think the frustrating thing about Helmut Marko is there seems to be, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Tim, but from a fan perspective, there seems to be a little bit of main character syndrome going on there. When you're a coach and you're a talent developer, your job is to let the talent that you are developing be the star. And your job is to get them there. What I keep seeing with Helmut Marko, and this has been over the course of years, especially as the internet has sort of taken over and we're able to see quotes in the German newspapers translated and all that, is I have seen a man who, when he makes comments, like there's a coach comment that's like, listen, coach is being honest. So-and-so driver didn't have a great race. So-and-so player didn't have a great game. That's fair. I'm sure the player would tell you the same thing. But when Helmut Marko speaks on this stuff sometimes, Tim, and this isn't just Daniel Ricciardo, this is everybody, with the exception of Max, who is otherworldly, he speaks in a menacing tone. It's not, he had a bad race and we got to work on that. What can we do as a team? It's, he better work on that or he's out. And what I'm seeing from this guy, and I've seen it with Albon, I've seen it with Gasly, I've seen it with Kvyat, I've seen it with Nick de Vries was brutal, absolutely brutal, is he goes out, he makes these comments, and he's not even an official member of the team. He is not a member of Red Bull Racing. Christian Horner made that perfectly clear at the start of the year, not a paid member of staff. And he goes out and he makes these comments, especially when drivers are down. He really likes to give them a swift kick and then wonders why they can't perform. I'm going to destroy your confidence in the media, and it's going to get translated, and you're going to read it, and your family members are going to send the article to you. And then I'm going to go, well, I don't know why he can't. He must have lost his killer instinct. And he was, I'll give him this. He's been softer on Daniel than he's been on Sergio. But at a certain point, I have to ask the question, what good is that doing the team? To me, that's self-serving. To me, that's Helmut Marko going, I'm the great one here. And the reality is a great coach can be honest, especially with the media. You can be honest, but you shouldn't be out there destroying your driver's confidence. And that's my issue. And when it's not, especially when it's not Helmut's driver. Nick de Vries was not a Helmut Marko choice. Daniel Ricciardo this time was not a Helmut Marko choice. When it's not his choice, he makes a beeline for the newspapers and says what he thinks, but has zero interest in helping either of these teams succeed unless it's under what he believes is the right choice. And I think at the end of the day, I think that's damaging to these drivers. They don't need that kind of pressure. They have enough. Do you know what I'm saying? If I'm wrong, call me on it.
No. I mean, let's just go back a bit because there's quite a bit there.
A lot there, but I'm seeing this again and again.
If we go, I mean, during when Daniel decided to leave Red Bull Racing for Renault, I've been covering the sport as a reporter, journalist, analyst, insider since 2014, and before that, obviously, I was a driver, and I kind of transitioned into this. So I've been around the sport for a really long time, and so I was around when all this happened, and I can tell you that there were a few things why Daniel left. One of them, obviously, he knew that this was going to become Max's team, and sure enough, he was told. And, in all fairness, I mean, as a driver, I'd rather hear it than have to sit around and do you want to learn this later on, or do you want to just get it straight up front so that you can go and look elsewhere for opportunities? The other part of it was Honda coming in and getting involved with the team, and they weren't a great engine manufacturer at the time because they were still learning how to build these very complicated power units, and eventually they got on top of it, and now we're seeing they have one of the best power units on the grid. And so that was one of the things that Daniel wasn't too sure about. And the same thing with trying to be a champion in 2019. All of us knew that it was going to be close to impossible to take down Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton combination, as well as Ferrari and Charles Leclerc coming, on board, and Sebastian Vettel still being, at the top of his game. And
he was still good. He was
yeah.
still really
So Adam, like there were a number of different factors. It wasn't had to do with one single person. It was like a whole myriad of things that he had to like kind of take a look at. And then the offer that he got from Renault was actually quite reasonable. And he was like, okay, well, I could go there and make that mine, and we'll see where it goes. And I have to take a chance. And you know what? I don't blame him. I probably would have done the same thing. And being in the position that he was in, like, it just only made sense. And so that's sort of that part of it. Now moving on to like, Helmut Marko, and I don't know him personally. So I find that when I read quotes in the press, or I hear things through other journalists, a lot of the times things that he says can be swift and sharp, but I think he feels that, I think anyways, that's how he feels he's going to get the best out of the driver. And that's one of the things that he's always been about, right? Is always getting the best out of the drivers that are in their cars. That's his job, right? He's Red Bull's motorsports advisor. So it may rub some people the wrong way, and it may not. I mean, Daniel understood the game. He knew like the way Helmut was with, talking to the media and all that kind of stuff. Like he knew, and he never let it get to him. And I think, a lot of the drivers know. And again, like, it's just the way it is. I mean, it's just the way he goes about dealing with things. And, Horner,
I don't see any other team openly sewer their own drivers the way he does. I just don't. Like, I honestly do not see that. I could see people saying, they're not performing.
I mean, you make a good point for sure. I mean, it just is what it is, man. Like, I just don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah, no, and I get it. I just find that frustrating because I think.
But I think, Adam, also a part of this is also that Helmut and Christian Horner dynamic, and
Yes.
like, and again, like, not a lot of us are really privy to what goes on behind those closed doors. We just hear things, and so it's kind of like, those two, obviously they butt heads a lot, and I think a lot has changed at the team ever since Dietrich Mateschitz passed away, and there has been a bit of a power dynamic going on. It plays out in the media quite a bit. It has with Jos and Christian, and so there is quite a bit happening there. And so
listen, Helmut was when the Jos and Christian stuff was blowing up at the beginning of the year, who put themselves right in the middle of it, right? Helmut was right there, ready to meet Toto. Like, it's
Sure.
I just think I look at this, and what bothered me yesterday as a fan was Helmut saying, "Oh, well, Daniel lost his competitive edge or his killer instinct when he left Red Bull." Dude, he put that Renault, which had no business being there, in fifth place.
Yeah, for
People
sure.
forget. We think about the Drive to Survive, where at the Australian Grand Prix he loses the front wing. He had a good year, and year two was even better. And at least driving wise, and I look at that, and I can't square that.
Yeah,
I have a hard time with that.
When I think, Adam, like, start of the season was really difficult for Daniel. Like, it was. You can really see it in the performances and the consistency. I think by the time we got to Canada, like I always say, I've said it on here numerous times ad nauseum. Once we got to Canada, like, things really started to turn around for Daniel, because I think he started to understand the dynamics of the car, what he needed from it, and how to kind of get the car to it. And I think a number of different things were factored in after that. New upgrades didn't really work, kind of threw the drivers off, not just Ricciardo, threw Tsunoda off as well. And so there is a lot here. I mean, maybe they felt that he wasn't reaching peak Ricciardo. I've read some articles over the past few days of people kind of questioning, was Daniel back to normal, or was he, he wasn't good enough, or all that kind of stuff. I don't necessarily know if I agree with all that, because when you're a driver, I mean, there are so many different factors that just go against you. If you just flat out just give up, I mean, then obviously it's going to be recognizable. But there were sessions that there was inconsistencies from Ricciardo, and not necessarily all his fault, right? Tires, setup, weather conditions, all these other things you can factor in. Was Daniel Ricciardo the same driver that he was back in 2017, 2016, 2015, 2014? He wasn't. Okay, we have to be honest about that.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
Could he have found a way of getting the car to where he needed it to be? I also think the regulation didn't really suit his style. I think he had trouble trying to get his driving style around the regulation as well at the same time. And some of the drivers have been having those challenges. He's not the only one, right? And that's where the inconsistencies come in. And there's only so many Max Verstappens there on the grid, man. Like
100%.
like that's just the way it is.
I just thought,
and Lewis Hamilton's and Fernando Alonso's like.
I just thought it was a relevant time to bring that up. I've been thinking that for a while, and it's not anything against him personally. I just wonder how constructive is that kind of dialogue. Now, moving on to, the send-off for Daniel. A lot of people were very critical of the way Red Bull handled it because there's only 3 guys that have ever graduated from the Red Bull program and won a race at the Red Bull senior team: Vettel, Verstappen, Ricciardo. And I think in a lot of people's minds, Tim, if you're going to send off a guy like this who, and I tweeted this yesterday, I think his biggest career win was not Monaco, was not Baku, was the amount of fan support he brought to the sport. Now, I would say that in a way, like, I obviously know that, like, Lewis Hamilton is far and away the most followed athlete in the sport. He's probably the greatest athlete of the last 20 years. But Daniel's ability to relate to people, have fun with people, was sort of second to none. Do you think that he was owed, some fireworks and a burnout? I think people were saying, like, should he have been able to do that? What do you think about that? Is that just the sport and that's just the nature of it?
I mean, man, like I didn't even finish it. Technically my last open wheel, racing memory. I mean, I didn't even make it to the next race, dude. I didn't even get to finish out the season because we ran out of money, and that was the end of it. Our sponsor didn't have enough, and look, this is a cutthroat sport, man. This is the way it is, and it's been like this before I was in racing, and it's gonna be like this when I'm gone out of racing. It's just the way it is, man. And I mean, sometimes you don't get those great send-offs. You don't get all the flowers and everything. It just doesn't happen, right? I mean, could the situation have been handled better? I mean, I said this on the last podcast. For sure, it could have been handled better. It should have been handled better, but it just wasn't. And I think that needs to be looked at by the team. How could they have done a better job and all that kind of stuff? Because the flack that Liam Lawson is going to get or was getting yesterday, that's not really deserved.
Completely
Lawson's
unfair.
Lawson's unfair. Exactly. He's just doing what he's got to do, right? He's got to look after number one, and he's trying to make a career for himself too. And he's just a young driver. So you have to give him a shot. You got to give him a chance. We have to see what, Red Bull needs to see what he can do. And I mean, it speaks more to the fact that I think Red Bull's kind of searching, we've got Max, but okay, well, who else have we got? Who else have we got in the pipeline? I mean, Isaac Hadjar is going to be the reserve driver now moving forward. He's going to take over from Liam Lawson, and Lawson's going to be moved into Daniel Ricciardo's seat. They got to see what he can do. And if he can't do anything, I mean, their hands are going to be kind of tied. What do we do? We don't have a replacement for Max Verstappen yet. They gotta they're trying to find, they're searching, right? It's just, this is I guess it's a bit of a gamble to see, but they had to do it one way or another because Ricciardo wasn't going to be their future.
Agreed. Yeah.
And that's in any business,
Max, right?
Right. In any business, any sport, Adam, right? You're always looking for where is your future? Where is your talent? Where is your talent pool? I mean, you above all would know that, when hockey teams draft players, they're not necessarily just thrusted onto the team. They're down in the junior levels. They're down in whatever, AHL or whatever.
Yeah.
Is it still called the AHL? I don't even know.
AHL, OHL, ECHL.
So they're not in the spotlight. They're just getting them ready. Like, what do we have? What is there? What's the work ethic? What, right? And then when they feel that, okay, this guy's ready to be moved up to the big team, they get called up. And if they don't perform, they're cut.
Yeah. And that's always been Red Bull's thing. And by the way, it's worked out pretty well for them. I mean, look
that's what I'm saying, right? Like, they have like a pipeline of drivers. And I don't think they've got a driver who is ready to just jump in if Max is like, okay, in 2026, I'm off to Mercedes.
Yep. No, I agree.
And that's why you hear...
Unless it's George Russell, like what Christian said.
I was just going to say that, but then that's why you hear, right, Adam, like Christian Horner, stirring Toto up, lobbing those little grenades into the media, which he should be doing, by the way.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure that there probably will be a conversation at some point between Christian Horner and George Russell if the Liam Lawson project doesn't go through the way they want it to. So
even if it does, if Max goes... I mean, George might be the one out of the job. That's what Nico Rosberg was saying, right?
Yeah.
And, so it could happen. Could be a trade.
Absolutely. So there's a lot there. I mean, you're pretty much getting all of it here. So.
Oh, I know. I think what was really special, Tim, is the reaction from the drivers and the teams.
Yeah. Cool.
You have McLaren, you have Zach Brown, you have Alpine, you have Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton really. I want to read Lewis Hamilton's if you can stand my voice for a second. I love Lewis Hamilton's tribute. He's very good with this. He said, "It's been an honor to compete with you over the years. I'll never forget the battles, the laughs, and drinking out of your shoe. It was gross, but I'm glad I got to do it with you. You leave a legacy of always being yourself, which in this sport is never easy. You've taken it all with the biggest smile, and I salute you for it. There is so much more up for you ahead, and I can't wait to see what you do next. Always here for you, man." And that, along with George Russell, Pierre Gasly, as I said, Zach Brown, Christian Horner, both the Red Bull and the V-Car teams, McLaren, Alpine.
Tons of McLaren personnel, tons of Alpine personnel, like people from behind the scenes, just a
special person,
of it.
Esteban Ocon. There was some really great touching tributes. Apparently Lando Norris obviously commented on Lando's or on Ricciardo's post, but apparently they spent 10 minutes together, and apparently Lando was in tears about it. And this is a special personality leaving the sport. Now, Helmut Marko did leave something for us, and so this is where I'm glad that he's so honest. He did say that Red Bull's open to Daniel being an ambassador, which is one of the things Lewis wanted with Mercedes that Mercedes apparently didn't want to give him. They weren't really ready to commit to that, but Ferrari wants Lewis to be an ambassador after he's done. What do you think about Daniel doing PR and representing and maybe doing a little bit of what Guenther Steiner does, which is being in the media?
I mean, we'll see what he does next. At this moment, I don't think he really knows. Not really sure if he's going to be back in the Red Bull family, Adam, doing anything, really. I mean, he could honestly just flat out retire and go and do something else. He has a number of different business ventures that he has up and running. I think he just finished buying a new place in Monaco. He's got a place in LA. He's got his farm in Australia. And he did really well, like financially in Formula One. He's really well. I mean, as another driver looking at another driver, like, I feel like I know Daniel quite well. I mean, like, it was awesome. I was so happy for the guy to see how well he did. I mean, it was incredible. So there's a number of different things he could do. I mean, I remember, I sat down and we were just chatting one day. We were like interviewing. We weren't doing a recording session or anything like that. It was just Daniel and I just chatting, and I'd said to him, like, this was, I want to say it was Canada GP last year. He was there doing some work for Red Bull PR. And I said to him, like, hey man, like, you know, have you ever thought about what you're going to do next year? And he's like, I have no idea. He's like, I don't even know if I'm going to jump into Red Bull seat. I don't know if I'm going to AlphaTauri. I just know that I'm sticking around right now as a reserve driver in case, you know, something comes up or whatever. And I said, you know, you ever thought about IndyCar? Like, I mean, it's great. You know, I was just telling him like my time in the junior category, how awesome the cars were. They're a little bit different now. In my opinion, they're not as awesome as the Champ cars, but they're still pretty cool now. But yeah, and he was just like, yeah, you know what? I don't know. He's like, I haven't thought that far ahead. He's like, I haven't thought about other racing series. I haven't thought about if I wanted to keep racing. And I think that's kind of like where he's at right now. He just hasn't really thought about it. I don't know if IndyCar is the way he would go. I doubt it. Like, I really do. I mean, he does like NASCAR a lot. I mean, is that something he could entertain? I mean, maybe if the right opportunity came along. And I think for him, it could just come down to like, I'm going to take a break and reevaluate and come back to something maybe later at another time. And you know what? That's all. If he's able to do that, I mean, more power to him. Like, because not a lot of drivers can just, you know, go away, take a break, and then come back into the sport in any capacity, in endurance racing, IndyCar, NASCAR, whatever. It's very difficult to do. So I think he is probably one of those drivers who could do that.
People forget that Daniel left his home when he was like 12, 13 years old to go racing. Like he loves Australia. He also loves Los Angeles. I believe that's where his second home is. And, you know, he's made tens and tens of millions, so he should be financially fine.
Yeah.
I think
he'll be all right.
Yeah. I think that maybe, you know, there's plenty of opportunities, as Lewis Hamilton alluded to. And I think a lot of them are off the track. And, if Tim, you can speak to this best, but if you want to be an athlete, if you want to be a driver, you have to be 1,000,000% committed to it. Otherwise, you just will not survive, right?
Yeah. Oh, you won't. You'll be done, and people will see it immediately. It won't even be like, you know, it won't even be like over a span of a year or 6 months or whatever. I mean, because, you know, we've seen in other sports, athletes are able to like not really care that much, but drag out that career, you know, a little bit longer. Not with motorsports. I mean, it's you'll be done in a day if team personnel see it, like, well, and they will. Like they'll see it in the data immediately. So
there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I think I'm done. I'm tired. And I think that feels like what this is, right? He didn't even, when in Daniel's Instagram post, it was not like, can't wait to get back on the track with something else or whatever it was. Yeah, I think this is it. And why not? You know, I think that sometimes knowing when you're done is knowing and then moving on to the next thing, whatever that is.
Yeah, and if he doesn't, I mean, his F1 career is like, I mean, he's probably, but he's like, I would say he's probably up there in statistics wise for Australian drivers. He's probably number one. Like he's the amount of points he accumulated, the wins, the victories, how many victories he got, and the races that he won. Like, I mean, winning Monaco. Like, you know how many drivers like just dream of just winning Monaco? Like that. There's a lot, and so. Yeah, he definitely left a huge imprint on this sport. I mean, man, I have so many memories of just doing quirky stuff with that guy. I remember like what year was it? I want to say it was 2016, maybe 2017. Yeah. We were in the media pen, and he had scored a point, or points, I should say. I can't remember. I think it was like fourth or fifth. Anyways, he put the car where it had no business being, and he came in with a little spring in his step. And I was like, he had answered like 100 questions or whatever. And he was coming around to me, and I'm like, what else can I ask this guy that he hasn't already been asked? And it was at the time when on SportsCenter, we were doing this thing called the Donut. And basically it's the Start SportsCenter. And it shows you like, this is what's going to be in Sports Center. It plays the music and it's like all of these different highlights and whatever. And then at the end it goes, it does the out ring, right? It's like, da-na-na, da-na-na. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to get Daniel Ricciardo to sing that song. I didn't even see what he says. I can't tell you all what he said because there was a lot of swear words that were in it when he was talking to me. And I was like, and since we had known each other, I'm like, no, dude, it's going to be all good. Just, I want you to grab the camera. I want you to shake it like this. And our camera operator, Wayne, was like walking him through like how to do it and whatever. And all of the media was kind of like, coming closer to us to see what we were up to. And he's like, all right, fine. He's like, here we go. You better be rolling. And he's like, we're rolling, whatever. And he did it. And I'm like, oh, dude, that was awesome. And he's like, don't you ever effing ask me to do that again. And he was like dying laughing. And then everybody else in the pen was laughing too. And he walked out and was like, all right, cheers, man. Thanks. I appreciate you doing that. And I ran into him later and I was like, dude, I'm like, they put you doing the thing in the donut. I'm like, it's going to be all across Canada for, the rest of the night because they'd played the morning loop and everything. And so like, yeah, it was awesome. It was great that he had done it. And I was so happy that it worked out. I did a bunch of other quirky stuff with him too. I mean, we did our show with him once, and we just had fans right into us. We could just pepper him with fan questions. And then what was the other one I did with him once? Oh my God, I did. What was it? Oh yeah, I got him to relive his first win in Canada. That's where he got his first victory. And no one knew the story about what he had done like after that night, like when he had won, because we all thought that he jumped out of a plane and flew out, and we were just recording, and I'm like, hey, yeah, could you tell me about your first victory and when it came in Canada, and do what do you remember from that? And he like took me through in detail, won the race, went back to the hotel, got cleaned up, went to the rooftop bar, the hotel bar, and he's just telling me about whiskey sours. He's like, I had a huge like whiskey sour craving back then. And he's like, I don't know. It was like a phase. He's like, I don't know why. We're just killing ourselves laughing. He went upstairs, got hammered on whiskey sours with the team, and had like a huge hangover the next day, and had to board a flight and get on back home before the next race weekend. Like it was great. He didn't need to tell me that story, Adam. Like he didn't need to tell me that, and he did. So yeah, it was great. I'm gonna miss the guy. I always got along well with him. Like always had great interviews with him. I thought he was. I really enjoyed Daniel's. Having time with Daniel was always great.
What do you think he did for the sport in terms of athletes and their personal brands? I think he changed that game for a lot of athletes in F1.
Yeah, I think he did. I think Lewis did. Like the two of them. Yeah, I think the two of them really kind of took the actual athlete brand to another level where they're actually a real brand. Because as a driver, I don't think you necessarily think of yourself as a brand because you're racing for a team. You have sponsors, partners. There's a whole crew of individuals sometimes who get you there, who help get you there. So it's not always just about yourself. Yeah, you have to put the work in. You have to put the training in. You have to put the time testing in, practicing, all of that. But there are other things that happen behind the scenes that help you kind of get there. And I think for Ricciardo and in particular Lewis, for sure, I mean, they are the ones who really carved out like an F1 driver as a brand, as like a Michael Jordan or, a Tom Brady or whatever, right? Like just a singular brand and able to open up, other things like, I think Daniel's other one's called Enchanté, and it's like I think it's like a t-shirt line. People can correct me in the comments, but essentially, wine as well. Like he also had like he was selling wine and stuff like that. And then same with Lewis, he has all of these other projects going on as well. And I mean, that's all, I don't want to say it's new, but it's like, it was pretty revolutionary, I think, in the last like 5 to 10 years, maybe. Like it's been.
When we were growing up, I think, the max you would get is Schumacher in an endorsement in a TV commercial. Yeah. Right. You wouldn't get. And obviously
and that would be it. Like you wouldn't see like a Mika Hakkinen, like.
No.
Like not here. Like
No,
not in North America. Like,
no,
you
we're
wouldn't
seeing
see
Heinz
that.
Harold Franzen doing,
Yeah, you'd never
whatever
see
else,
it.
right?
You never see that.
And I think I think there's a contribution there. I mean, he just, he and Lewis, I think specifically through the 2010s, widened the appeal of the sport.
Yeah.
Lewis through his greatness and his charisma, and Daniel through his approachability. It just seems like everybody's friend before you even meet him.
Yeah,
So
that Drive to Survive, I think, really helped too, Adam. Like,
no question.
I think that helped, like, really kind of take, his personal brand to sort of another level, another step up. And for as big as, like, I think Ricciardo, personality wise, but also, on social media, like he never came across that way, like, where I guess he thought he was bigger than what he was. Like, he was always very down to earth, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And he was always very, like, he was always just like a guy, a dude, and it just, I think that's why I probably connected with him so well, is just simply because he was just like, we would talk music and whatever. And so, like, but he was great in that respect as well. And I think never really let any of that kind of get to his head, but he knew that, like, he could take his brand and do other things with it. And I think, like, him and Lewis, you make a great point in that. I mean, venturing off, doing other things like film producing, having your own film production company, and, like, just so many different avenues that they were able to go down because of they were taking advantage, obviously, of their star power, really.
Now, I have a fun little rumor for you, and I'm not sure how. This is a fun rumor. Apparently, Almave, which is a premium
That's
non-alcoholic.
Lewis's.
Yeah, his apparently, it will become one of the sponsors. Pernod Richard owns a stake in it. Will reportedly become one of the sponsors of Ferrari next season.
Oh,
and so Lewis, in a way, may be one of the first drivers to sponsor himself through his own company, which is kind of neat. I thought it shows the length, the enormity of the Lewis Hamilton empire.
Yeah, but I think it's really smart, right?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, like, if it's your own brand, if it's your own, like, I mean, beverage company, whatever. Yep. I guess non-alcoholic. I think Lewis's thing is non-alcoholic tequila or something like that. I think that's what it was. I mean, everybody's going to correct me anyways. So yeah. Anyways, I was in the media room one day and he was pouring out drinks to the drivers and that stuff. That's awesome. I'm like, Lewis, awesome. I was like, oh, it was so awesome, man. I was laughing. I was just dying. Took pictures of it. I was just dying laughing. We were all killing ourselves. But that's smart if that's what's going to happen. Like, I don't have any insight into that.
I figured it would just be fun.
No, I mean, Adam, like, in terms of branding and, like, getting if you own a company and getting it out there, and you're able to do that and, get some marketing from it. And Ferrari obviously is a massive, massive F1 team and is just so popular all around the world. You think Formula One and you immediately think Ferrari. And I guess if you're going to associate your brands with Ferrari, like, they're going to get out there, right? Yeah. And so, like, smart. If that's what's going to happen, that's a smart move. I
think it's cool. I just think it's a cool rumor. Now, I want to quickly jump back to Liam Lawson and just do a little snapshot of Liam because, I think outside of his few race ride with AlphaTauri last year while Daniel's hand was broken, I don't think a lot of people know a lot about him. So he had 2 points in 5 races last year in that terrible AlphaTauri car. 22 years old, from New Zealand, finished third in Formula 2 in 2022. He was 9th in Formula 2 in 2021, 5th in F3 the year before that. And a lot of people might look at that and go, well, Stroll and Schumacher and all these other guys, they won F2, F3, whatever. What is it about this guy where, like, they're not looking for him to win an F2 championship? They're looking at something else. They see something here with this driver. As you said, Helmut Marko picked him out in New Zealand when he went to scout someone else. What do they see in this guy? What do you think if he's going to be special, what's going to make him special, Tim?
I mean, I think I didn't catch it if you pointed out the Super Formula.
Yeah, he's in there too. Yeah,
run that he had, because he was the runner-up in that championship in last season. He's really good. And that Super Formula Championship, those drivers, oh man,
they're good.
They're really good. Like, that's a great series. If you ever get a chance to watch it or check it out, I think they post a lot of their full races on YouTube. Cars are awesome. The drivers are incredible. And so for Lawson to finish second and runner up in that championship, while also doing, reserve driver duties for AlphaTauri and all that kind of stuff, and then jumping in, filling in for Daniel Ricciardo, and then going all the way back to Japan and finishing off Super Formula. I mean, really remarkable stuff. It's really difficult to do. That's a hard championship. I've spoken to Pato O'Ward about it in detail, in the past. And Pato and I sat down and chatted about that. And he told me just how difficult the championship is and how hard the cars are and how awesome they are too, actually. But I think that was like an eye opener for the team as well, seeing how well he did there. And I think they just need to see what they've got with him, right, Adam? Like, it's they see something in him, untapped potential. And I'm excited to see what Liam can do. It'll be a cool story. Like, it'll be
cool. It's always cool when you got a rookie on the grid.
For sure. I mean, you have to, I'm really excited for him. And we'll see. I mean, again, Adam, right? If this thing plays out the way Red Bull Racing wants it to, I mean, we're going to be, talking about what a great move that was. That was really smart. They didn't let him get away, et cetera, right? So we got to see where this goes. Got to give Liam Lawson a chance. Have to. You can't
absolutely
just throw this guy away already.
No, and
that's not fair.
Sets us up for 4 or 5 rookies on the grid next year, which is amazing and
for
cool
sure.
And going to be a lot of fun. Some other news just quickly before we kind of go here. Mick Schumacher apparently is off Mattia Binotto's short list for Sauber in 2025. Now, this comes on the heels of a report that Valtteri Bottas will be re-signed for a year. Do you believe that's the case?
Yep. Yeah, I think so too. Yes. I think, Valtteri's back. I think it's, again, not official.
Right.
But that's what I've been hearing, is that it'll probably be Valtteri back at the team for next season with Nico Hülkenberg. But let's wait and see what shakes out. Again, this is Formula One. It can change really quickly. So, I mean, we're hearing this now. It could change later. So let's just wait and see what the team has to say about it when we get to Austin. But, I mean, look, we've talked about it, Adam. It's great if they bring Valtteri back because, again, he's still at the top of his game. He hasn't lost anything. If anything, I think he's gotten faster. And he's really hungry for it. So I think, I mean, it would be a good move if Valtteri was to re-sign with Sauber Audi for sure. As for Mick, I mean, I'm not totally surprised that he wouldn't be on the list. That list that Mattia Binotto was kind of running through it's got quite a bit of talent on it, man. Like, I mean, Franco Colapinto's made a statement coming in. So I mean, you would have to take that in consideration, what he's done. Like, 'cause he's been fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, fantastic.
And then Bortoleto in F2.
Yeah,
right?
Bortoletto's been incredible too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's gonna be a competitive grid. But I understand why they want to go veteran on that. And both Nico and Valtteri are very good qualifiers.
Well, for sure. I mean, Hülkenberg's like Singapore Grand Prix,
he's like his
it's
crazy.
It's amazing. Yeah. Right?
Oh, it's amazing. I like watching. It's such a nice story, It's a guy that found himself out of the sport, was, the Aston Martin reserve guy. Lastly, and this is for our friend Gene Haas, who joined us earlier this year. I guess, sorry, not Gene Haas, Guenther Steiner. Guenther joined us. Gene did not. Guenther and Gene were
I'm like, wait a second, we had Gene on? I'm like, where was I?
Sorry, Tim, I forgot to call you for that one.
Yeah.
I guess because the title of Guenther's book and the picture on it is a Haas car. It's called Surviving to Drive. That's his first book. He's got another one coming out this fall. And I guess Gene sued him in copyright court in the States saying, you can't use that logo. And I guess Guenther said, well, this is fair use. It's, context of I was the team principal at the time. A judge has thrown that out. And I just, what I want to say is I find life so funny, and maybe this is just getting a little too philosophical, but these two guys launched this team together. Guenther was the guy that convinced Gene to do it, has made Gene so much money just by owning the franchise, just by getting him into the sport, and there being a cost cap. Gene has made probably $1 billion or more. I know he spent money, but come on.
I'd be curious to see what the team's worth now, for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, just getting into the sport, if you're a brand, would be so expensive.
Yeah.
I want to know, Tim, how does that relationship fall apart so quickly?
Yeah,
Like,
that's wild.
He's working for him last year.
I know. I agree with you, man. I don't know how that just falls apart that fast. No idea. I mean, yeah, those two worked together for so long.
Yeah.
So long. And the amount of work that both of them had to do to get an F1 team on the grid for 2016, not an easy feat. Not an easy feat at all. And then staffing the entire team they've got a good group of people who work on that team behind the scenes, really strong individuals, and just keeping them together and on the same page, keeping them motivated and all that kind of stuff. It's not easy. So yeah, I don't know why Adam was just not happy with the way things went down. Either one of them, I think. And I didn't know that about the court ruling and the judge throwing it out. I had no clue. I knew that Gene was undertaking some legal battles with Guenther, but I wasn't too sure exactly what the details of all of it was.
Well, it just seems like a pain in the butt, the whole thing. I hope they can come back together and at least appreciate the time the 10 years that they did together in building that team.
100%.
Tim, thank you for putting up with my voice.
Oh, buddy.
And thank you for managing my
Thanks for pushing through.
And we'll be back Monday or Tuesday next week. I'm sure there's going to be more information over the weekend. Maybe we get a confirmation about what's going on at Sauber. But I hope you have a great weekend.
Yeah, man, you too. Thanks again.